I got all my crying out before you guys got here, so we're good.
Oh, good.
He came early just to cry in the basement by himself.
Yeah. And jump at every noise that happened down here. I was like, oh my God, it's happening.
It's happening.
Definitely not haunted. So hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, great. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for lining up the space. I found that's the hardest thing about doing Citizen Salem is just finding someplace to do it.
There's so many awesome spaces, though.
I know.
The library is pretty cool. I'm glad that you suggested this
Yeah.
because it is a really cool space.
I didn't even know this was down here.
Yeah, it's
so,
it's like being in the underbelly of a ship.
for sure.
Yeah.
So
I would.
let's start with how people would know you. Lauren, if someone saw you on the streets of Salem, how would they know who you are?
Probably because I'm very small and I scowl and they avoid me. So they don't know me because they don't want to. No, I mean, I have a lot of connections in the music scene, and that's kind of where it started in Salem. And then with these girls, a few more connections with the yoga, herbalist, tarot event scene in Salem.
And Salem would have a yoga tarot
Yep.
event scene like that.
And I feel like we kind of, I don't think there is anyone else that does the combination.
Not
of
to the
three.
same level that we
Yeah.
do.
But all of the three things separately are pretty popular, but we kind of came together and said, let's do it all.
What about you, Chrissy? How do people know you on the street?
Similar to Lauren, we both played in bands for many years, and we've been in 2 bands together now. So recognition from bands, but also I definitely got the, oh, you're the yoga teacher. You teach classes at Notch, huh? You know, and I actually had a thing happen one time at the hairdresser when there was a woman who came to one of my classes, was like, I'm sitting next to you right now, and you're the yoga teacher that taught me the class. And I'm like, hello. And I'm terrible with names, so I feel really bad when that happens.
Well, you see dozens of people at a time. I think you get the pass on
Yeah,
that one.
yeah, but I try to remember.
For sure. Chris, what about you?
Me, I've been here for a while, so it's always weird when someone comes up to me and says, "Hey," you know, 'cause I'm like, "How do you know me?" Because I don't know, it's bizarre. But I do a lot of stuff in the community, and meeting them was kind of cool because then we could collaborate with, you know, I'm specifically focused on tarot and magical herbalism, so it's my goal to like empower people to learn that. And so
How'd you get into that? Where does that even start?
You were born with that, baby.
I know, right?
Well, that's because there's all the people that I've talked to. That's kind of what it is. It's like I had this thing in me.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I had a Lithuanian grandmother, and then I had an Irish grandmother, so I had both elements
Okay.
from 2 separate, you know, lineages that, you know, one grandmother was very into the herbs. We'd be out in the woods all the time, picking mushrooms, you name it. And then I had the other side of the family, which is, you know, a bunch of mediums, psychics, and so Thanksgivings were really interesting because, you know, the guys would go watch football, the girls would be doing the tarot, and, you know, would bring out all the mediumship stuff. So, yeah, it was always interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lauren, what's your path to this? Are you the tarot person? Sounds like Chris is the herbal person. So
We're all kind of the herbal people.
Yeah.
Chrissy and I we did last year an apprenticeship to get a certificate in herbalism, and we started the business that we have together based on that. But we both, I mean, I kind of just have been doing it casually my entire life, not, you know, being younger and not really knowing that it was a thing.
yeah.
And just loving to be in nature and going outside all the time and following people and identify. I had an aunt, a fake aunt. It was like my mom's best friend aunt, who was one of those people we could walk through the woods and she could identify every plant. And I loved it. And I'd be in the garden with my mom all day. And, you know, it was one of those things where it was a part of my life, but I never identified it and never, like, made it a thing to do in my spare time until I had the time to. And I was like, I want to do this. So let's make it a thing.
Where did you grow up? Did you grow up near here?
Yep, I grew up in Billerica first. And then,
So when you get to Salem, so Billerica, you're just digging
Yeah.
around in the woods, right?
Right.
When you get to Salem, is that when you find out it's like an actual thing that people do?
You knew before.
you know, I
then. It
knew,
was just-
yeah, it was just like, I just have so many things going on that I'm not going to, you know, put that at the forefront yet until obviously moving here and you're just surrounded by,
Sure.
the community is just all into similar things. So I'm like, okay,
There's
well,
stores for this?
I know, right?
Yeah.
That, and then there's all, you got to be able to pick between what's legit and what's, a tourist trap and whatnot.
For sure.
But yeah, being here obviously made it really,
Yeah.
come to the forefront.
Yeah. Chrissy, yoga at Notch. Do you do the heavy metal yoga at Notch?
I get asked that all the time. No.
That's not you. Okay.
No, I do. So my lineage with this kind of stuff is similar to Kris. It goes back a long time. Like I had a Russian grandmother who was the gardener and the plant person and the herbalist and the one who could like pick things out. And I got that from her. And I was always drawn to sort of this path since I was probably about 15. So I always like reject it. Like I was like, I don't want to go to church, like that kind of thing. And,
I'll be in the woods.
Well, that's
I want to go in the
all
woods.
have that.
Yeah, I know. And I became a biologist. I mean, that was one of the things that drew me into the world of ecology and biology. And that's what I do for the other part of my living. So that's always.
You're an actual like in the field like you're.
I work for
a
NOAA
biologist.
Fisheries as a marine biologist. Yes.
Get the hell out! That's awesome.
Yeah. So I'm very diverse.
What is your day as a marine biologist like?
Well, right now
Are you
we're
on
in
boats a lot? I mean, I'm sorry to be. So
No. I do a lot of regulatory work. So I do work with the Protected
Okay.
Resources Division.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we deal specifically with sea turtles, whales, a couple species of large fish called sturgeon.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of work on making sure that actions by other federal agencies don't imperil their continued existence.
This is why I like doing this because I said, "How do people know you around town?" You're like, "I'm the yoga lady, and then I'm also a marine
I also
biologist."
save
this-
animals every day of my life.
I'm fighting the good fight. No big deal.
But you
Don't
like,
mind
walk
me over
around
here.
with, like,
Yeah,
sturgeon on your shirt.
because
Exactly.
I work in Gloucester, and in
Yeah.
Gloucester you can't be like, hey, I work for NOAA.
Oh
Yeah,
God,
exactly.
no.
No, so yeah, so that stays under wraps a lot. But yeah, so there was always sort of that element of wild nature child, and
Yeah.
and then I started practicing yoga, and then it was about 5 years ago I decided I'm gonna do my teacher's training, and so I started doing my teacher's training, and it all sort of like dovetailed because like the Eastern philosophies with the Western pagan that I already knew and was very familiar with, it was like kind of came together. And then
yeah.
once I met Kris and she was like talking about, well, in the tarot, like there's all these similar things, and we were like, whoa, let's just weave this amazing tapestry.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we've been doing.
That's
which
kind
is
of
really
our
cool.
whole thing too, as far as science versus religion versus
Yeah.
any beliefs. There's not like one thing. I mean, obviously, but it's also like it's a little bit of this. It's a little. Like, we always like
Yeah.
had not arguments, but like conversations about other people's arguments. With like, it's not just Eastern Western. It's not like going to a hospital and getting a prescribed medication. It's like, yeah, if you're like bleeding out of your gut, go to the hospital.
Right.
Don't like put some plants on it and hope it'll fix it. But then there's a lot of other things you can do that aren't
Right.
hospital based.
sure.
So it's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
it's a happy mix of everything.
But going back to your question, I do teach rock and roll yoga classes as well.
Okay. All right.
And that's like the piece that, that's the musician in me that I was
Sure.
just like, we joke all the time because we've been literally playing in bands for like 20 years, and we see our not to generalize, but our male friends as they get older and older, and they complain more and more about all their aches and pains, and you're like, I need to make a yoga that they will go
Yeah.
to, because that
Sure.
will make them feel so much better.
Sure.
So that's kind of where that all came out of.
Kris, you guys keep referring to this kind of like nebulous group. Is there an actual name to this organization and what you guys do?
Coven of Cool. I
Yeah,
just made it.
no, we just invented that.
Yeah.
Because we all have our own separate entities where they, like, again, the dovetail, it's like it all kind of fits together perfectly. But we haven't actually named this a
Yeah,
thing.
because Kris has
Kind of
Dark
like
Moon.
not having a name.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause she's Dark Moon Tarot. I'm Rebel Yell Yoga. Me and you are Chaos Factor. So it's like it's all just
Like,
And I'm Citizen
like the
Salem. Hi.
we're
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
the artists,
Yeah.
we're like the artist known as Prince, but
Yeah.
when he
Yeah.
was the symbol.
For sure. Yeah,
So what
yeah.
I'm going to do when I get home tonight is
design a
design a
symbol.
symbol that represents all three of
I can
us.
That's
see
perfect.
that.
Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah, and she's great.
And then we'll all get it tattooed on
Yeah.
ourselves.
I'm down.
Yep.
So yeah, we need a sturgeon.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're going to literally
You know-
combine everything we do. It's going to be this just like...
Sturgeon are not exactly the most attractive fish.
Oh, I think
Oh, but they're
Cute.
cool though.
the baby ones are really cute.
She would make it cool.
The
Oh,
baby
yeah.
ones.
I'll
are
make
cute.
him look cute.
Like skeleton.
I made a
They are
right
kind
whale
of
look really cute.
Skeleton sturgeon would be awesome.
I mean, they're pretty prehistoric looking. So
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
could,
for sure.
a skeleton one would look pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
All right, done.
Kris, how long have you lived in Salem?
I've been here. I'm going on 13 years now.
All right.
Yeah.
From where?
Well, I was in the Air Force for a while, but I grew up in Derry, New Hampshire, and then joined the Air Force, became an officer, traveled all over the place, and I actually chose to come back to Massachusetts to Hanscom to do my last assignment, so I could end here
Yeah.
and come back home. So
A fellow Fed.
yeah,
I'm the
Couple of
only.
feds
I'm the
over
only
here.
civvy over here.
Lauren, what about you? How long have you lived here?
I have lived in Salem for 19 minus 12, 7 years, 7.5 years now.
Why the math?
Because I couldn't remember a number of years. So I was like, I bought a house in 2012.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yep. And but before that, I was I did I grew up in Massachusetts, in Westford and Billerica, went to school in Arizona, came running back screaming, because I was like, I can't deal with being it's not even the West Coast, it's just, it's a whole
desert.
different
There's
world.
no water.
The desert itself
No
is
water.
cool, but the people are just lit. So I came flying back, and then I did the whole bounce around from like Cambridge to Somerville to Alston to Brighton, and like
Sure.
all that stuff. And then
The Rock
once
Kid tour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I had we had a condo. My husband and I had a condo, and one day I was just like, there's some college kids having a party upstairs at 3 in the morning on a Tuesday,
It was
and I'm like, I gotta work.
right? It
Yeah.
was a basement condo.
And so I was just like, done. I'm done. So I like literally was like in bed, couldn't sleep. Went on Zillow or whatever, and I'm like, we're buying a house.
Yeah.
So we did that, and then once we came here, it was kind of a mass because then the prices in Boston just went flying.
For
and,
sure.
it was like a mass exodus. And the few years after we moved here, they're like all the bands that we played with in Boston moved to
Yeah.
Salem. New venues started popping up after a whole bunch closed. So it's just it was perfect. The timing was.
And I like to say I was
Immaculate.
before my time because I moved here in 2007.
All right.
And everyone was still all living down in Alston, Brighton, and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
I was playing in bands, and so I was always like commuting to and from. And I was like, I'm telling you guys,
Yeah.
North Shore is really cool. North
Yeah.
Shore is great. And everyone's
Yeah.
like, oh, it's so far. And then lo
I
and
never said
behold,
that.
Hey,
all
here
these
they
years
come.
later,
People still
everyone's
say that
here.
though, which is so stupid.
I
'cause,
know,
like,
they're
it's
lame.
literally 16 miles.
Yeah,
Come on.
it's whatever.
So yeah, everybody else is still at the modern Europe or Dodge Street. Like,
Well, yeah, I remember. We used to play Dodge Street.
Yep.
yeah.
I played Doc Ryan's before too, and that was still a thing.
Collins.
Oh, Collins.
Yeah.
Yeah, Collins was a time.
Yeah.
I mean, 2007, because that's when I moved here.
Yeah.
It's really not that long ago, but we're already talking about places that don't exist
I know.
anymore.
Yeah. I mean,
And it's
that's what was that? 12 years?
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah,
do math.
that's
so
right.
Similar
Yeah.
to you. Yeah.
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 yeah. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
I mean, so many places. So many of those clubs, those rock clubs, are gone.
Yeah.
I think luckily though I mean
Other ones. Have
the
taken
ratio
place.
of closing to opening isn't quite balanced yet, but there's so many great places now that are just taken over, and it's awesome. And I mean, they have like places like Hodo and Oprah's are booked through the end of the year probably already.
Sure.
So it's awesome. And then just getting to know the people and the connections that we've made so far are just awesome.
Yeah. What are you, and I'm going to throw this out to all three of you, field it as you wish. What are you guys doing to make Salem a better place? Stunned silence.
Yeah.
No, then we were all going to talk at the same time.
I know. It's totally off because I'm always the asshole that interrupts everybody. So I was like,
I don't know. I just feel like when I came here, I was originally planning to move back to Boston, and then I came here on a whim because one of my friends visiting wanted to come up to Salem, and when I was here, I was just like, there's just something about this place, and then you feel like you belong. And once I started living here, I felt like I found my people. And then when I started realizing, there's so much for everybody to learn, and people come here to learn. They find Salem to be like this magical place where, they too feel like they belong, and they're looking for someone to guide them. So for me, it's really important to educate about what really happened here, but also, empower people to know that, we were all born with these inherent gifts, and it's not, unique to any of us. Everyone has it, and you too can awaken it. And so for me, it's really important when people come here to get the true vibe of what a lot of this stuff is versus just the surface, wear a witch hat, put on a cape, and come to Salem.
Yeah.
There's actual stuff that really went down here that, is no different than what's happening today and a lot of the, things that we see on TV. So for me, it's more of an empowerment
Would
and
you,
education.
and you're coming at this from a unique perspective because you grew up in New Hampshire, but then you literally traveled the world and you ended up landing here. Is there any better word to describe it than there was just a vibe that you locked into that you just...
Oh, absolutely.
considering that how far you've traveled.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, traveling around, and I still work for the government, so it's like I still travel around, and I find it really interesting bringing back some of the culture and seeing what's going on in various places. And I'm like, wow, we think about 1692 and everything that happened here, but
Yeah.
some of that crap is like still
Yeah.
going
Yeah,
on.
it's
I mean,
not-
like
yeah.
right in where we live, and it's just in a different format. And so I honestly feel it was kind of more like, I know it sounds kitschy and stuff, but I almost feel like I was like drawn to be here because I had no intention of moving to Salem.
Yeah.
It just sort of happened, and when I was here I was like, I've got to be here, and so that's just been my thing ever since, and yeah.
I think to tag on to what you were saying about like wear the witch hat, wear the cape, and come to Salem kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
where I feel like and I know we all resonate with that, but it's kind of making sure we balance out the, like, obviously tourism is great,
Mm-hmm.
city needs the money, but let's keep it real as well, and
Yeah.
have some places, sanctuaries that people can go to that are legitimate and are genuine, and do tap into all that, the history
Absolutely,
and
yes.
like it's a legacy.
A good balance.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got into beef with a guy on the internet at one point who had been to Salem once, and he said, it's all Harry Potter shops, and I'm like, you went to the wrong places,
Right.
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah, like, sure.
You went to the
there's
wrong
those
place.
too, but
And I don't think I've even been into a place
haven't
where I
gotten
would
there.
call it Harry Potter shop.
well, there is that place, but I haven't
Yeah.
got in there.
What is
yet.
it called? Which one is it? Well, I'm not going to say
I
it.
don't
Yeah.
know.
No, I mean that's
Fine.
good.
Good for them.
There
You-
are
and
people coming there for
people
that.
love that
But
shit,
there's
but
also
there's
coming people, people come in here to learn what they're drawn to, just like
Yeah.
we were probably drawn here for some
Yeah,
reason.
yeah.
And that's the piece that I think is pretty, magical in its sense, because whenever I do a workshop and I get emails after saying I feel so much more confident, and I didn't realize I had this ability in myself. It's just I'm like, that's why I'm supposed to be here.
Right. Yeah.
Even though there's a lot of tension, and there's things that always go around, and sometimes you just got to push certain
Yeah.
things away and say, you know what, that's not what it's about. This is why I'm here.
Well,
and
yeah.
yeah.
Like, what I'm doing is good. I feel like I'm doing good. So, like, I don't
Absolutely.
care what anyone says.
Yeah.
But you have to say, everyone has to say that all the time in your life.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There's parallels between the music scene and between like the scene here and what we're talking about, because for 20 odd years you're getting like, well, you're not punk enough, you're not metal enough,
Yeah.
you're not this enough,
Yeah.
and then you get
Not to
into
mention the female musician part.
oh yeah, and then you get into scene here, so well, you're not witchy enough, you're not this, you're not whatever, and it's like, well, this is what I am, this is what I've always been, and I think another thing that is a big thing for me, and I know it's a big thing for all of us, is that what we do and what we offer, whether it's through the herbalism or through the intuitive work or the tarot or the yoga, all those pieces are to help people heal, to heal themselves. So it's really about using these tools that we've learned about and that we've embraced and that we've used for years and have found work, and saying, hey, if you think this resonates with you, give it a try. And we have so many workshops that we do together when people leave and they're just like, oh my God, I feel like so much better about everything. Thank you. And
That's
if,
the stuff
if that's
that
what
I-
happens,
yeah.
then I feel like I've done my job.
I mean, I leave our workshops feeling that way.
Yeah.
We kind of. It took us
Me
a little
too.
while to figure out exactly what the formula was for these
Yeah.
things, and I think the last few that we've done, where we have this, like, we have like the group
We
tarot.
switch it
reading.
up, but, like,
yeah,
yeah.
we switch it up. But in general, obviously, yoga is good for everybody. Body, mind, and soul. But then the way we do this community, it's like more of a group.
It's a group
Talk.
energy.
It's like,
that
the energy
ends
is
up-
absolutely insane.
Yeah.
The community thing, and people are able, like, there's people that I know that have come to our events that they're just buttoned up in their entire life, and they will just like let loose in front of a bunch of strangers and get emotional.
therapy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but not in like a clinical environment, and it's perfect. And I'm like, I never like thought of myself as like a person that would be like, tell me all your problems, stranger. You know,
Right.
I mean, obviously for my friends, but it's like, and afterwards I'm like, oh my God, I love everybody so
I know.
much.
It's true.
Like, I literally in my life have never said I love everybody so much. More than I've said in the last 7 years.
Lauren's nickname used to be the Angry Monkey.
Yeah.
So if that gives you any
Yeah.
clue
Which
to
I
how she's
obviously
evolved.
love. But dude, like, I literally say I love everybody so much.
Yeah, I mean,
a
it's
lot of
it's
times.
powerful,
Yeah.
and the whole thing of yoga as a tool, like, really it connects your mind, body, your spirit. So right, so you're connecting all these pieces. You get into this meditative place, and then when we use the magic and the power of plants, which even if you don't believe in quote unquote magic, plants have certain compounds. I
Yeah.
mean, they use them in pharmaceuticals. Like, they have certain inherent biological properties that are helpful.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you add the intuitive piece, and all of a sudden, people just open.
Yeah.
They open. You can see it happening,
Yeah.
too, and it's really amazing.
Yeah. The intention part is super strong too. We always talk about that when we're
Yeah.
planning stuff. Where it's kind of like, well, what should we do at this point? What
It's
should we do at
all
this
about
point?
intention.
No, just let it go, and we will figure it out when it
Yeah.
comes. Yeah.
I think those have been the most successful when, you
Yeah.
know, we started out like
Really?
having a structure, and then when we moved to, let's see how the energy of the people show up and kind of
Yeah.
work with the flow.
Yep.
And then you have people who have never read cards before, and they get a tester deck, and they're like, whoa, where
Yep.
you know, that just flowed right out after, you know, doing the yoga and then sitting in the group.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
pretty cool. And like, you know, some people will say, you know, we'll go after and have drinks maybe with some of them, and they're like, that was really healing and,
Yep.
and welcoming, and you know, and that's when I'm like, all right, we're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. And that's a big thing, too. Like, I think, like, for my teaching, like, when I just teach regular classes, like, that aren't necessarily workshops, one of the things I learned from my teacher was always read the room. So you're always teaching to the room and what they need. So you might have this whole sequence in your mind of like, we're going to do this, this, and this. And you get in there and you're like, okay, none of these
Know your
people
audience.
need
Yeah.
this right now.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
my ego speaking that I was thinking this would be great.
Yeah.
You know, so
Right.
you have to adapt.
Watch what I can do, guys.
Right. No,
Yeah.
I never do that because
Yeah.
that's, I cannot. I cannot.
But you also do a really good job with your yoga classes of appealing to all levels. And
I
you know,
try.
people who you
Yes.
know are advanced or
Yeah.
people who you know are beginners, you can
Yeah.
cater to all of
I'm
them at
not
the same
like, here,
time.
do a forward bend. Now do a back bend.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, there's none of that.
Meanwhile, I'm in the corner screaming.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm very alignment based, so I like cue like all the little nuances so your body gets into the right place.
Yeah.
But I think that you're right. Kris is right in that with our we've been doing this for almost like 2 years now. I feel like it's become more refined in that we're just like, okay, we're just gonna go. We have a
We're
general
guides. We're
idea,
guides.
a general vibe of what we want to present, having to do with whatever the season or the
Yeah.
moon phase or whatever it might be, and then we go and we do it, and it takes on its own, it's its own entity,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool.
Well, Kris, Chrissy, and Angry Monkey.
Now she's
I'm
just
not
our
letting
little
go.
monkey.
I'm not letting go. It comes out every once in a while, so I'll keep it.
Thanks for hanging out. Can you tell me when your next event where you're going to blow minds is?
It's Monday,
Yeah,
actually.
it's
This coming Monday,
Yeah.
which is the autumnal equinox.
Okay.
So we will be balancing light and dark, and it's going to be over at Hive and Forge, and it will be yoga. It will be some plant magic. It will be some intuitive work and some tarot, the whole 9 yards. And
I think the one going on at Ninth Realm on the 8th, I'm really excited
we also have
about
that.
Yep.
Yes.
It's
So
all
group like
shadow
2.
work, going into the dark. from
Yeah.
All right.
So
veils
we're
and-
going to the tipping point, and then on the 8th we have another. We're going to be doing a very, very like chill. It's gonna be really cool.
Yeah, it's the first time
Yeah,
doing it that way.
because we're going to be
Really.
doing like delving into the shadow
Yeah.
and then coming back out.
Cool. Go blow some minds, ladies.
We'll
Thank
try.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.